Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of people claiming that they know the owner when they actually don't. The stories are super entertaining. These stories are compiled from the tales of retail and the tales from your server subreddits. The first story is a woman who tries to get a discount and free donuts by claiming she knows the owner. The second story is a scammer who says he knows one of the owners, and it gets pretty embarrassing. The third story involves a guy in a bar with a friend pretending to be the owner on the phone. I hope you stay for all the stories today and subscribe for future videos. This story is titled, "Ma'am, You're in the Wrong Town." I used to work at a small donut shop where the owner and his ex-wife both owned 4 stores in 2 towns. When they divorced, he took over 2 in one town, and she took over the other 2 in the other town. Their daughter was also the manager at my store. Our stores were kind of set up weird where we had to bake everything at one store, and then we'd have a van delivered to the second store in the morning. The guy they were training to run the second store was really bad at knowing when to order a restock. I typically switched locations because I could work both of them really well. So, it's a pretty busy day, and my coworker didn't order the refill when we needed it. I even reminded him to call when they were running low on stock. He said okay, then never called. So we have almost no donuts except for some chocolate dipped, a couple filled and some glazed. And up pulls this soccer mom with 3 screaming teens in the back. The customer says, "Hi, I'd like..." and then she lists a dozen donuts that we didn't have in stock. I replied, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we don't have those at the moment. We have this. Our late morning order hasn't been filled, and we'll have some more in about an hour." The customer then says, "Well, that's okay. Since you don't have the donuts I want, I'll grab the ones you do have, and Linda would give me a discount and some free ones since the donuts I want aren't in stock." I asked her, "My friend Linda? She owns these shops." I said, "Oh yeah? No, her ex-husband Rick owns these ones." The customer looks straight ahead and says nothing. I then told her, "Her shop isn't far from here. Do you still want the donuts we have though?" She says, "Yes, please," and took the donuts and paid full price for them and drove off in silence. My manager thought it was hysterical and told me, yeah, if she actually was my mom's friend, she would have known who owns which stores. Ah, the name dropper. Nice try, Karen. Nice try. This story's titled, "There has been some sort of mistake. I am the brother of the owner." A post on here reminded me of when I used to work at my Italian friend's cafe. It was a nice 20s style cafe, red paint, cherub fixtures, white and black detailing. A man walks in. He makes a beeline for the register and says, "I am the brother of the owner," he explains. I asked, "Matthew or Mark?" I asked, knowing that the 3 brothers are named after the first chapters of the Bible. "I work for Luke, so it's obviously not him." And the guy responds, "Mark. Fantastic! Would you like a coffee while you wait?" I asked with enthusiasm. He responds, "I'll take a skim flat white." "Absolutely! Take a seat here while I make your coffee and get your mother." I watch as he goes pale and sits uncomfortably. He says, "Oh, there's no need to get her. She's probably tired." What a thoughtful son, I thought to myself. He knows his mother's going through chemo and doesn't want to disturb her. I make his coffee and bring it to him, and go get his mother from the apartment above the cafe. I said, look how lovely it is that your son has come all the way from a city that's 4 hours away." She stares at him blankly. I thought, poor mother and her Alzheimer's. She didn't recognize her own son. They sat and enjoyed their coffee while I retrieved the owner from his consultant with a client. I told the owner, "Your brother has come to visit all the way from 4 hours away." The owner asked, "Who?" "Mark. Joy of joys. My overworked boss, who's running his own business and looking after his sick mother, has a surprise family reunion with his brother." Luke gets to the table that his mother and Mark are sitting at, and his mother is the first to speak. She says, "Luke, who is this man? I've never seen him in my life." I interject and say, "That's your son. Don't you recognize him?" thinking that the Alzheimer's has gotten the best of her, and she says, "I've never seen him before." Luke looks at me and says, "I've never seen him before either." Mark stands up and says, "There's been a mistake," before bolting for the door. And that, my dear friends, is how I accidentally scared off a scammer. The mother's fine, by the way. She lives in an apartment complex 1 floor below Luke and turns 90 this year. How the heck did the guy think he was going to get away with that? As soon as he heard the employee say, "Oh, I'm going to go get your mom," he should have left. This story's titled, "So Much Stupid Background." So, my stepdad has been the manager at the only bar in the county for 15 years. The owners are a group of 3 brothers who also own several other businesses in the county. As a teen, I babysat the owner's kids. I had my first job washing dishes at the bar, and I eventually ended up married to one of the brothers' stepsons. Safe to say, my family and the owner's family are pretty intertwined, pretty enmeshed. But because they own so many businesses around here, everyone knows the brothers. All the locals anyway. Tourists and travelers are a whole other kettle of fish. This story happened a few days before Christmas. I was covering behind the bar because it was crazy busy with holiday travelers and they needed some help. Jerk shows up in all of his jerk glory, complaining about the highways getting closed down on account of the storm. I'm pulling beers for the brothers and their wives, and my bar back was running drinks, so Jerk had to wait a few minutes after dropping the beers. Often grabbing limes for my mother-in-law, I head back behind the bar and grab Jerk's order before refilling the drinks for the rest of the bar. The conversation goes as follows. Jerk says, "Where have you been? I'm a paying customer. I shouldn't have to wait half an hour before you take my order." At most, it was 5 minutes. I said, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, sir. I had to run some drinks out real fast." "What can I get you?" he says. He says, "Beam and Coke, that's Coke, not Pepsi, and hurry up, I'm already sick of being here." "Absolutely," I say. "I'll just need your ID, and that'll be $6. Jerk looks at me and says, "ID? Look at me. I am obviously not a kid. Just get me the darn drink." I told him, "In this state, we ID every person every time, regardless of age, and I need to see some ID or I can't serve you, sir." He then says, "Oh, really? How about I just call the owner and have him sort this out? Is it worth losing your job in the process? But I'll still get my drink. You still want to see my ID?" "Yes, sir. I still need your ID, and the owner will agree with that." At this point, the guy actually pulls out his phone and makes a call. I don't know who he called, but it wasn't one of the brothers whose table I can see from the bar. He hands me the phone, and an unknown man tells me I need to serve his friend's drink or not bother showing up for my next shift. I don't have a regular shift. I'm covering the regular bartender as a favor to the brothers. So I laughed at the unknown person, said okay, and hung up. At this point, my mother-in-law and the oldest brother are watching what's happening. The oldest brother comes over to find out what's happening. He says, "What's going on over here?" Jerk says, "This girl refuses to serve me. I called the owner and the little idiot still won't get my drink." Older brother says, "Oh, you know the owner?" "Yes, I do. I just called him now. Get me my drink and this can all go away." Older brother looked at me and said, "Why won't you get his drink?" "Because he refused to give ID." "Well, then she can't serve you." Jerk then says to the older brother, "Do you work here too? Or are you just being nosy? I can have you fired right now." Older brother responds, "Oh, right, you said you know the owners." Older brother then yells out to the other brothers at the table, "Y'all know this guy?" Now everyone in the bar is looking because the brothers are not people you notice yelling in a small place. The other brothers look confused and say, "Nope." The older brother then says, "And I don't know who you are either. Either hand over the ID or get the heck out of my bar." Jerk still refused to show his ID and got kicked out. Fun times, people, and so much stupid. It's kind of funny and sad that he actually has a guy to pretend to be the owner on the phone. I wonder if it works more often than not. This story's titled, "It Helps If You Know the Owner." This happened about 2 years ago. The restaurant that I work in is a small family-owned place. Very nice food with pretty high prices and extremely good reviews. One week, on a Thursday, the maitre d' is taken to hospital with appendicitis. So naturally, he couldn't work his regular shifts the Friday and Saturday night. So I tell everyone I'll do it and fill in for him. Friday evening, I'm waiting tables, operating the cash register, and acting as maitre d', as are the other two waiters, Dave and Phil. As I said, it's a small place. We all chip in. The really busy part of the night is winding down and things are a little quieter. I'm just greeting a couple and checking the reservation when a group of 5 women come in the front door, all dressed in business attire. The leader of the pack looks to be a Karen and, I'm guessing, is about 45 to 48 years old. The other 4 women look to be in their early to mid-30s. I think the women had come from some kind of seminar or convention at a nearby hotel because some were still wearing name tags from the venue, and I suspect they'd all been drinking, which might account for their behavior in what happens next. As they're waiting for me to finish with a couple who are ahead of them, the leader is saying loudly to the other 4, "Yes, this is an extremely good restaurant, fantastic food. It has great reviews in all the newspapers and magazines. A bit pricey, but well worth it. But that's no problem because it's all going on the corporate credit card, right, girls?" The girls all laugh at this. Then she goes on to describe the restaurant in really glowing terms. In fact, she was pretty much quoting word for word a review the restaurant got in a travel magazine about a month before. It's like she committed the review to memory or something, and then she finished with, "I eat here all the time whenever I'm in town. I'm a regular." I thought that was kind of strange, as I don't even remember seeing her in the restaurant, probably boasting to her friends. Oh well, no matter. After seating the couple that had come in before them, I now return to the Karens and the group at the front desk, smile and say, "Good evening, ladies. Welcome to XYZ Restaurant. How may I help you?" The leader says, "We want a table for 5. I reply, "Certainly, ma'am." "Do you have a booking?" She says, "No." I say, "Sorry, ladies, but at the moment we're fully booked. However, if you'd like to wait at the bar, or perhaps come back in 45 minutes, I'll get you seated as soon as I can." The leader says loudly, reeking of whiskey breath, "No, you will seat us now. I made arrangements with the owner for a table tonight." I asked, "When did you speak to the owner about making reservations?" She quickly looks up at the girls and, with a smug expression, says, "Wednesday afternoon. I came in personally to speak to the owner. He's a very good friend of mine. He's not going to be very pleased when I tell him about your incompetence. Someone dropped the ball on this one." This sends the 5 women into fits of giggling, while the leader looks proud of her dominance. I say, "Oh, okay. I think I understand." Karen, again with her whiskey-filled breath, says, "You don't look smart enough to understand anything. The owner probably told you to book me, and you just forgot. I'm telling you, we have a reservation tonight." More laughter from the girls. Just then Dave, one of the other waiters, comes out of the kitchen and walks past. I call him over and introduce him to the group. I said, "Ladies, I'd like you to meet Dave. He's worked as a waiter here for 7 years." The women don't look impressed. Karen says, "Why do we need to know who Dave is?" Then I say, "Dave, who's the owner of this place?" Dave looks really puzzled for a few seconds and then says, "You do, Chris." I then turn to the group and repeat, "Sorry, ladies, but at the moment we're fully booked. However, if you'd like to wait at the bar or perhaps come back in about 45 minutes, I'll get you seated as soon as I can." Karen says, "Come on, girls. We're leaving. The food here is horrible and overpriced anyway." They all leave. I don't know if they had a booking arranged with another owner at another restaurant, or if they ate fast food that night. Don't know, don't care. The owner had a lot of patience in this one. If that were me, I'd be like, "Darn it, Karen, I don't remember talking to you, you drunk lying sack of garbage." This story's titled, "Lady Claims to be the Owner's Daughter." So, a little backstory on where I work. It's a very small family business where we sell pools and pool chemicals. Only 2 desks in our office which can fully see into the showroom. 1 desk for the manager and 1 for me. Also, when I say small business, I mean it. Normally, it was always just me, the assistant manager, and my mom, the manager. However, we had recently hired someone new that was a little older than me. I was 21 at the time, and my new CO worker was 2008. My mom had to go pick up some office supplies for us and mail off some bills, so it was just me and my CO worker. We weren't very busy at the time since it was a weekday and fairly close to closing time, so I was sitting at my desk, and he was at the manager's desk since he didn't have his own. We're both on our phones, playing around and waiting to hear the door open. We hear the door open and my CO worker, we'll just call him Matt, starts to get up, and I tell Matt that I've got this one, so he sits back down. I stand up and see this lady Karen and her kid come in and start walking around. I walk out to the showroom and welcome them to the store and ask if they need help finding anything. Karen says, "We're just looking right now. I'll let you know if we have any questions." Karen's kid says, "I want a pool toy. Where's the toys at?" I responded, "Well, the pool toys are right over there in the aisle by the door and on the wall there." I motioned to the wall where the displays were. Karen then says, "I told you we don't need any help right now." I just step back and walk into the office, not wanting any confrontations this close to closing. They continued around for another few minutes when I heard the kid hollering from the front of the store. I look up, and the kid was climbing on the ladder samples, which clearly have neon green signs that say, "Do not climb on." So, I walked up to the front of the store and politely told the kid that he couldn't climb on them. Karen is her caring self and says something along the lines of, "Don't tell my kid what to do," and the kid, who's 10, starts crying. I said, "I'm sorry, but it's against company policy to have anyone climbing on them for safety purposes." I point out the sign that says you can't, and Karen says, "Well, you should have made that sign bigger." I'm not the best at containing my frustration. And when I get frustrated at someone, my sarcasm comes out with absolutely zero filter. The kid's been running around our store screaming like a banshee, and I was getting very annoyed. Me, under my breath, said, "Well, maybe try using your eyes next time." Karen said, "What did you say to me?" I said to look for a sign next time you want to let your son climb all over the displays in the store, and walked away. She continues walking around with the kid still crying until she gets to one corner where we have some Legos for the kids to play with. Mind you, the area is roped off with all the lights shut off to that corner. The kid, screaming, said, "I want to play with those Legos." I wasn't even in the mood to say no as long as it stopped him from crying. Then he brings them out from the designated area and throws them down the aisles at our toy displays. I had enough because I knew I was going to have to clean it up and told him, "You're not allowed to take the Legos from the play area. Please put them back where you got them." Karen says, "Who do you think you are, talking to my son that way?" "I am simply telling you both that what he's been doing is not allowed in the store and he needs to stop." Then Karen drops the bomb and says, "Well, how dare you talk to us that way? I'll have you know that I'm the owner's daughter, and I'll have you fired for this. Mind you, the owners are my grandparents, and she sure as heck isn't my aunt." Karen walks up to Matt and says, "Have you heard how your employee talks to me? He's the rudest employee I've ever met, and as the owner's daughter, I demand he get written up or fired." Matt says, "Well, I can't do that. I can't fire him because he's my boss." Karen finally shuts up and looks at me while I'm grabbing the picture frame off the wall. I slide it in front of her and point to my label. I showed her my name, the assistant manager, with grandson underneath my name. Entitled, her face turned every shade of red under the sun. "So, you mean to tell me that you're a long-lost aunt of mine? Because if not, you can get the heck out of the store." She practically dragged her kid out of the store while trying to run out the doors. She kept pushing on our doors, trying to get out. They're pull doors. There is only one thing more embarrassing than saying that you know the owner. It's claiming that you're a family member and related to the owner when you know you're not. Oh, poor Karen. That must have been so embarrassing. Poor Karen. Now, let me share my views on these stories. Story 1, ma'am, you're in the wrong town. This story is a perfect example of someone trying to scam their way into a discount and getting caught in their own lie. The soccer mom's attempt to name-drop Linda for a deal, only to be corrected that Rick owns the shop, is hilariously awkward. I love how the narrator calmly points out her mistake and offers to direct her to Linda's shop, leaving her silent and defeated. The manager's amusement at the situation seals it. Calling out the Karen's failed ploy without escalating is pure class. It's a short, sweet takedown of a wannabe con artist. Story 2, there has been some sort of mistake. I am the brother of the owner. This one had me grinning from start to finish. The scammer's bold claim to be the owner's brother, only to unravel when the narrator innocently involves the mother and actual owner, is comedic gold. The way Mark goes pale and bolts when his lie is exposed is so satisfying. I admire the narrator's quick thinking in playing along, setting up the perfect trap without malice. The mother's blunt "I've never seen him before" and Luke's confusion make this a masterclass in accidental revenge. Scammers beware. Don't mess with a close-knit family business. Story 3, so much stupid background. The jerk's entitlement in this bar story is infuriating, but the outcome is oh so satisfying. His whining about a 5-minute wait and refusing to show ID, followed by a fake call to the owner, is peak audacity. The older brother's calm intervention, backed by the other brother's chorus of nope, is a brilliant shutdown. Kicking him out for his stubbornness feels so right, especially in a small-town bar where the owners are well known. I can't help but laugh at the thought of his fake phone call backfiring spectacularly. Classic case of digging your own grave. Story 4, it helps if you know the owner. This story is a delicious roast of a Karen who thought she could bluff her way into a table. Her whiskey-fueled boasting about being a regular and having a reservation with the owner, only to be confronted by the actual owner, is pure poetic justice. I love how the narrator, Chris, plays it cool, introducing Dave to set up the reveal that he's the owner. The group's hasty exit, with Karen's lame excuse about the food being overpriced, is the cherry on top. Patience and a well-timed truth bomb make this revenge top-notch. Story 5, lady claims to be the owner's daughter. This one's a masterclass in shutting down a liar with style. Karen's claim to be the owner's daughter, followed by her kid's disruptive behavior, is bold but foolish in a small family business. The narrator's sarcasm slipping out under pressure is relatable, and Matt's deadpan "I can't fire him because he's my boss" is perfect. Showing the picture frame with grandson under his name as assistant manager is the ultimate mic drop. Karen's frantic exit, struggling with the pull doors, is comedy gold. Don't claim family ties when you're clearly not in the family photo. Hello, I hope you enjoyed the stories in this episode. If you like the stories, hit that like button and leave a comment. If you aren't subscribed, you'll want to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. See you guys in the next one.